job interview for the library graduate. Barbara Daniels, Sharon Foote, Staci Novak, and Olia Sweiss will be your presenters. In any job interview, we need to conduct some form of research. This implies that the person interviewing needs to be knowledgeable about the company or group. If nothing's known, it becomes apparent in any interview when forming a response. It can't prevent anyone from being hired. Websites, history, background, help gather information like mission statements, milestones, services, and more. This describes the group and helps any person applying to a job. How does this help? This helps in many ways. During an interview, it builds confidence due to information gathered. It can show during an interview through verbal and nonverbal actions. Also, it helps with any decision making about joining a company and ensuring a good fit. Most importantly, don't wait until the last minute. It can leave anyone unprepared when responding to any statements. Visual appearance and attire. The interviewer sees you before they talk to you. How well dressed and groomed you are, you'll be judged in those 10 to 15 seconds. Also, dress sends a message of seriousness, professionalism, and respect towards the company. Wearing a miniskirt, tank top, and sandals does not help in any professional environment. It hurts more than it helps. What kinds of clothing are recommended for men? When entering an interview, men can wear a dark business suit, a white dress shirt, make sure it's long sleeve, a color-coordinated tie, nothing bright, flashy, or trendy, black dress shoes, preferably shiny and lace-ups, a black dress belt, and dark socks. What kinds of attire is recommended for women? Women wear a dark-colored business suit, skirts that are knee-length or slightly below the knee, pants are also of dark color, blouses that are not bright or flashy, black dress shoes. Also remember, it must not be open-toed. Also, dark or neutral colored pantyhose. There are other things to consider besides attire and clothing. Visual appearances include other categories. If you have any tattoos visible to the eye, cover them. Any piercings like tongue, nose, or lip must be removed. This conveys the wrong message to the interviewer. Bring another business portfolio or a small conservative purse. This also conveys the message that you are a professional. Also, no backpacks or anything similar. It is not appropriate for an interview. This is some information about research, visual appearance, and attire. Next, Staci will will discuss the first impression.
Thank you, Olia. Yes, I am Staci, and I will be speaking about making that first impression on those you are interviewing with. Research shows that facial expressions are an extremely pertinent way to demonstrate how an individual is feeling about a particular situation. By smiling when you meet that person or group of people who are going to interview you, you are immediately communicating that you are happy to be interviewing for the position. While smiling is one way to demonstrate enthusiasm during an interview, this can also be seen throughout the interview process as you answer each question. You have done your research about the organization in which you are interviewing, so you can display your enthusiasm by emphasizing how excited you are about all the services and resources this company has available to the customers it serves. During this time, you will be contributing to what you will be adding to the organization as a whole if hired on. In the article, "Congratulations, you landed an interview. What do hiring committees really want?" Hodge and Spohr write about a research study done using hiring committees to determine what they are really looking for in hiring librarians. Enthusiasm scored the highest percentage from the hiring committee, telling us it is a very significant quality. I know the one thing I have heard as I finish up my Master's of Library and Information Science degree and live for employment is to breathe. It is important to not let ourselves get so nervous when interviewing that our rate of speed in which we answer questions is so fast that it makes it difficult for the people interviewing us to understand what we are saying. While technology is an extremely important part of the world we live in, and you definitely want to emphasize all that you know when it comes to your skills in this area, you do not want to have your cell phone ringing or even vibrating during the interview. It is important that once you enter the building of the facility which your interview will be conducted, that all of your technological devices are turned off and out of sight. The way you dress and present yourself is very significant, and talking on your cell phone or playing with your iPad will not appear professional if this is how you are found when first approached by your interviewer. Another important factor in professionalism is always to be on time to your interview, which means getting there 5 to 10 minutes early so you do not appear to be rushing, throwing all relaxation out the window. Throughout the interview, you will want to stay focused on being positive. This means you do not want to speak negatively about prior jobs. Also, when speaking about your weaknesses, you can keep it positive by emphasizing what you are already doing to change those qualities in you that are not as strong as they need to be. For example, if you found out at your last job that you lose your patience with irate customers, you can speak about all the things you are doing to make sure that this does not occur anymore. Research has shown that it is beneficial to begin and end an interview with a handshake. It is recommended that if you are not comfortable shaking hands, that you should practice doing it with people in your life that you have a closer relationship with. With the emphasis always on the first impression, make sure as you stand up to greet the interviewer that you continue to smile and make eye contact as you firmly shake this person's hand. Keep in mind that firm does not mean that you should shake the other person's hand to the point of hurting him or her. Whether shaking hands with your interview or sitting down to begin the interview, you will want to keep in mind that most people have a personal space already set around them in which they do not want to cross. The textbook Interact 2010 shares that a safe social distance is 4 to 12 feet. Of course, when shaking hands, you might need to be at 3 to 4 distance because your arms can only extend so far. Before taking a seat when entering the room that your interview will take place in, always wait for the interviewer to tell you where to sit. I have been to very few interviews where I was told to sit anywhere I wanted to. The people interviewing you usually have an exact place that they want you to sit. The interview may be conducted in a more conservative approach, meaning that the interviewer will be sitting behind his or her desk while interviewing you, or the interview may take place around a table which would be considered more casual. It is is your job to just follow suit, allowing the interviewer to guide the interview. Body language. By standing up straight during the initial handshake with the interviewer and sitting up straight in the interview, you are demonstrating that you really care about this job opportunity. This is because this type of posture shows a sign of respect. You will want to face the interviewer directly as another indication that you highly regard him or her. If there is a group of individuals interviewing you, it is still important to face each of them. You can do this by moving your body slightly to look at each of the interviewers as you answer all of their questions. As we spoke about earlier, smiling is a pertinent part of making a first good impression. When interviewing, you want to make sure that you are cautious in the expressions which you display on your face because it can be interpreted incorrectly. For example, in the illustration of this slide, the man's facial expression is being concealed by his hands. Is the man confused, angry, wishing he never came to the interview? It is impossible to know unless he moves his hands from his face. It is important that if you utilize your hands when answering a question, to not let them block your face. You have gone to school and have your Master's of Library and Information Science degree. That is an excellent achievement. Be confident that you have a lot to offer the organization you are interviewing with. Because you have thoroughly prepared for your interview by researching the company, you can be assured that you have the ability to succeed within the library career field. Be yourself. Referring to the article, "Congratulations, you landed an interview. What do hiring committees really want?" It was decided through this study that personality and really fitting in with the team that the new librarian will be working with is an important aspect in whether an individual will get the position. You might not be the right person for a particular library job that you are interviewing for, but by being yourself, it will assure you that the job is the right opportunity for you as well. Remember, you are adding new energy, diverse viewpoints, and knowledge of the most updated resources in the library and information science profession. And now Sharon will speak about types of interviews.
Thank you, Staci. Now we'll talk about the types of interviews that one will encounter on their way to finding that perfect position. A one-on-one interview is the most common and traditional form of interviewing. It is usually performed in a quiet, private area. The person performing the interview hears questions. Are a combination of structured and unstructured, meaning that through the interview process, other questions arose pertaining to an individual candidate's experience. Now, let's look at what interviews are designed to do. Interviewing techniques. Behavioral interviewing or competency-based interviewing is the most common interviewing technique used by employers today. This technique is designed to ferret out the candidate's skills and abilities by asking about past performance as it relates to the competencies in question. The theory behind this technique is that, and I quote, past behavior is an indicator of a question intended to discover the candidate's customer service skills might be formed like this. Describe a time where you feel your customer service skills shined. The candidate's answer to this question will give the interviewers a good idea of what kind of customer service the candidate will provide. Along with customer service skill, the ability to multitask, teamwork, and leadership skills are all highly relevant to library services and should be considered when preparing for an interview. However, studying the job description is the best way to prepare and to determine the competencies necessary to perform the job. Now, let's examine how best to answer the questions asked. Answering the questions. Just as there are interviewing techniques, there are also techniques that can be used by the candidate to answer the interview questions. Remember, the interviewers want examples with precise details. An easy technique to remember is the CAR method. CAR is an acronym for circumstance, action, results. Let's use CAR to answer the question asked earlier about customer service. Your answer might sound something like this. The most recent example happened the other day. A patron came into the library looking for information on how horses have been traditionally used in wartime. He had just watched War Horse, and although I was unable to answer his question in the short time he was at the library, I explained to him that I could research and work on it and give him a call when I had the information he sought. He was okay with that. It was just a curiosity for him, and he was in no rush. I worked on it as time would allow. For the next couple of days, I came across a website that cross-referenced some other sources, and I used that as a starting point to gather what the patron expressed he wanted, then gave him a call. He was extremely happy with the information and very appreciative of my time and diligence in getting the information. The answer demonstrates the candidate's desire to satisfy patron need, the ability to follow through, and reference skills. The answer also meets circumstance, action, results. Another common question at most interviews is centered on the candidate's strengths and weaknesses. This is handled a little differently. Strengths and weaknesses. When discussing your strengths and weaknesses, it is important to be honest. No one is perfect and everybody has a few weaknesses. A few tips to remember when discussing your strengths and weaknesses. Be sure to choose a strength that is pertinent to fulfilling the job duties of the position you are applying for, and vice versa. When choosing a weakness, make sure it is not relevant to the position. In addition, touch on any actions you are taking to correct the weakness you have chosen to share. Now, let's talk about experience. Experience does not only include paid work experience. Experience can include internships that relate to the position applying for, any organizational work you've been associated with, the numerous projects you have been involved with as you pursued your education, sports teams you have been a member of, and of course any pertinent volunteer experience. And although experience is important to a hiring committee, they deem your attitude and education more important. But now it's your turn to ask the questions. What do you do when they say, "Do you have any questions you would like to ask?" Asking questions. First and foremost, be prepared. Have 3 or 4 questions ready to ask. If a question you were planning on asking has already been answered, say so. And remember to be positive and upbeat. As stated earlier, your attitude is an important factor in getting the position. The interviewers are looking for someone who will add to the organization. Last but not least, there are a few questions you shouldn't ask about at this time, and that's about schedule and pay. When they offer you the job, then you can ask. And that concludes my portion of the program. I will now turn it over to Barbara Daniels. Barbara?
Here are some helpful tips for getting the library job that you desire. Volunteer. volunteer. As a volunteer, you can practice your skills and get to know about working at a library from the ground up. Library experience is essential for a resume at a library, and this is a great way to get it. Stay healthy. Take care of your physical and mental well-being. The last thing you want to do is get sick before an interview or before you start a job position. Take ownership. Foster ownership in the work that you do. Be proud and be responsible for the work that you have done and be able to articulate it in the interview. Stay focused. Make sure you have your short-term and your long-term goals in mind. Be positive. The right job is out there for you. Fostering negative emotions will only bring down your self-esteem. Staying positive and happy will encourage you to get out there and achieve your goals. Be kind. Be nice to everyone that you encounter in the interview process, from the receptionist to the patrons that you pass in the hallway. You never know who they'll be, and you want to make sure that you're fostering a friendly atmosphere around you. In summary, do the research on the library. Make sure that you know who you're talking to and the institution that you applied for. Dress appropriately. Make a good impression. Never be late. Practice for the interview. Make sure that you are prepared when you walk through those doors. It'll make you more comfortable. Ask questions at the end of the interview. Stay determined and positive, and now I'll give you some tips for the follow-up. After the interview, make sure that you send a thank you note or email. Make sure that it is short, sweet, professional, and that you send it to all the people that you interviewed with. Be patient. These processes can take a long time, and you don't want to be making unneeded or unnecessary phone calls to a prospective employer. Alert your references that they might be getting a call from your prospective employer. No one wants to be caught off guard. Don't burn your bridges if you don't receive an offer. The library community can be small. Also, if you don't get the position, don't put yourself down. It just might be that they were looking for something else in that position. It's best to stay positive. This has concluded our presentation. Thank you for your time, and we hope you enjoyed it. Happy job hunting!